Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machalei Ra Online Smicha. The common bracha that we find that people wish each other is, you should live long, you should have Arichas Yamim V'Shanim. Shalita is Rosh Hashanah Sheyichya La'erech Yamim Tovim Aruchim. Now, isn't this double, Arichas Shanim and Arichas Yamim? If you have Arichas Yamim, you're automatically having Arichas Shanim. So the simple explanation which is brought is that you should not only live for many, many years, but the days should be full. The days should be meaningful. If the days are empty, then a long life doesn't get you anywhere. And Chazal actually tell us, and the pasuk says in Mishlei, Yirbu Yamecha v'yesifu lecha shneis chayim, that there is actually a concept of you should have many days. The days should be full. We also have by Avram Avinu, Bereshis Chav Zayin Zayin, it says, Ve'ela Yemei Shnei Chaye Avram. So both, Avram Avinu lived long, many years, and he also had full, Avram Zakim Ba Yomim. His days were meaningful. And there's a story that said that a certain Beis Kvaros, a Beis Chaim in a certain area, if you walk through that Beis HaChaim, you would see something very interesting. That most of the people, when it says I shouldn't say most, a lot of people, when it says how old they were a very young age. One says it's 25, another one's 30, and people always wonder what it was. Because in that Beis HaChaim, they had a custom that they wouldn't just write their age based on their passport or what year they were born. Rather, they would calculate days and years based on how meaningful a thing was. When a person worked hard and he was successful, obviously in the Ruchnius, then that would be considered a day that he fulfilled everything, and it's meaningful. It's check. But if Chas v'Shalom a person did an Aveira, he would not count that as something to credit him for a long life. It's actually brought in the Medrash. The Medrash says, Al Yedei Yetzer Hara Hashanim Miskatzres, that through falling in the trap of the Yetzer Hara, you actually live shorter. So the Yetzer Hara, whether you do a mitzvah or not, that is what gives a person a long life. And it's interesting that the Rebbe in Likutei Sichos Chelik Tezvav Amud 66 says a phenomenal hesber. Why do we find, many Mefarshim discuss this, why do we find that in the Chumash, in Parshas Bereshis, people were living up to 1,000 years? And then from a certain period of time on, it went down to 120 years. And then the pasuk in Tehillim says, Yemei Shnei Seinu Shivim Shana v'Megvura Shmoinim Shana. What happened? What was the big change? And the Rebbe says, a beautiful hesber, the Rebbe says that up to Matan Torah, then the people then were living strictly on the Chasdei Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on the Chesed of the Eibishter. Because they were living on the chesed of the Eibishter, since the Eibishter is unlimited, so his chesed lets you go on forever and ever. And Adam Rishon was created in such a way that he wasn't supposed to die until the Chet came along. But from the time of Matan Torah on, because the Eibishter gave us Torah, and now we have a judgment system of schar v'einish, and you have mitzvahs that you have to keep and things you have to stay away from. So therefore, it's not anymore based on the unlimitedness of the chesed of the Eibishter. It's based on how your performance is. So if your performance is great, then you're zeichet ha'arichas yamim. If your yamim are full, you're zeichet ha'arichas yamim and shanim. If chas v'shalom not, it's you make your own destiny. That's what the Rebbe writes in Chelik Tezvav Amud 66, which is a phenomenal shot. Now, obviously, there's a lot to talk about this. For example, the Gemara Chagiga says in Daf Daled Amud Beis that there was a woman that was called Miriam Megadelas Hayoladim, a Miriam who raised children, and for whatever reason she passed away very early, and she didn't fulfill her life's mission. And this is an interesting story. And her her extra years that she was supposed to live was given over to a certain Talmid Chacham who had a special quality, that he was Maiver al Midaiso. So we see that everybody has a mission that he or she has to accomplish for a certain period of time. Now there's a fascinating Gemara in Gemara Gittin Daf Chav Chesam and Aleph. The Gemara says that if a husband sends a get to his wife, they're getting divorced, so he made a shliach to send the get, and the shliach went, and he's still, as he give it to the shliach, she's not divorced yet until it gets to the possession of the wife. Now, he's traveling, he doesn't even know if the husband who sent him is still alive. Should he assume that as long as he's getting there, his mishalech, the one who sent him, is still alive, or maybe he passed away? So the Gemara says that usually we assume that people who you saw around to give you a message or what a shlichus, why should you assume that something wrong happened? So the becheskas chai, the becheska that they're still living, and the shliach could pass on the get. However, Rava comes along, again, this is in Gittin Daf Chav Chesam and Aleph, Rava comes along and says, if, however, the man giving the get was 80 years old, that's pretty old. So therefore, there's a concern that who says that when he gave the get to the shliach to pass it on, who says that that period of time he didn't pass away? And therefore, an 80-year-old man sending a shliach, not necessarily he could pass on the get if it takes too long. Unless, says the Gemara, if he was kvar hiflig, he already became very old. If he already became very old, what's that? If he's over 90 and over 100, according to Mefarshim, then he looks, wow, he's going to live long. Then by him, the chazakah of staying alive is back on. In other words, the earlier part of old age is challenging. If you make it past the shishim shana, the shivim shana, and you made it past, you're up to 90, then you're chazakah that you're going to live long. That means you're supernatural in a certain way. You have certain kaichas, there are certain qualities or benefits that's going to make you live longer. So your cheskes chayim is still on. So based on this Gemara, some explain what the Tehillim says in Kapitel Ayin Aleph, Pasuk Tes, Al tashlicheni le'es zikna. Don't forget about me when I'm old. Why does it say le'es zikna? Why doesn't it say Al tashlicheni bizikna? Why when I'm old? So based on this, you can explain that when a person becomes 90, then we say, if he hit that number, the assumption is that he has something special that's going to give him chayis for more and more. Because al pi teva, the older age start at a certain time, and that's when a person starts kvetching, his body starts reacting. But if a person is able to overcome it and overcome those initial challenges and get to 90 and up, then that shows that he's powerful. So therefore, David HaMelech says, Al tashlicheni le'ez zikna, because the tchila zikna over there, you need more rachamim than regular than when it's zikna. When zikna kicks in, that's when I want a special rachmanis. All right, so everybody is always looking for the secret pill. What's the secret to arichas yamim? So long life. We all know the Gemara tells us the story that the person says, "Humia isha chafetz chayim surmei rav asei toiv bakesh shalom v'ratfeu." Right? I'll give you a list of things that the Gemara and Mefarshim say, or straight out Chumash says that if you do this, it's a school for arichas yamim. We all know that Naseres Sedibris, it says the mitzvah of Kibbud Aveim is a mitzvah Laman Yarichim Yamecha, that you will have long life. Even though that the Gemara tells us that it doesn't mean in this world, it means the Elam Haba. Nevertheless, the Mefarshim say it obviously also has a benefit for this world. The Gemara in Kedushin Daf Lamed Gimel says, anybody who shows honor and respect to Talmidei Chachamim, he is Zoiche for Arichas Yamim. Mitzvah Mezuzah. The Torah says, if you fulfill the mitzvah, L'man Yirbu Yameichem. The mitzvah of Shiluach Hakan, sending away the motherboard. The Torah says, if you do that, V'harachta Yomim, you'll live long. When the Torah tells us the mitzvah of not cheating on the weights and the scales and the measurements, making sure everything is accurate, the Torah says, Even Shlema, have a real scale, a kosher scale, L'man Yarichun Yamecha L'Adama. I'm just giving you some of them. Another place, the Gemara in Bracha says, One who goes early shul and leaves late at the end of shul, he has a riches yomim. The Gemara says in Megillah that they asked Rav Pareda, what chus did you have to have a riches yomim? He says, no one ever came before me in shul. The Gemara in Brachas Daf Yud Gimel says, anybody who reads Shema and says the word echad in a lengthy way, he ma'arichim lo yom v'shnoisav. Again, I'm skipping around. I know there's other places. Same says the Gemara Brachas Daf Mem Zayin. If you say Amen properly, you get a Arichas Yomim. Or anybody who says Shnai Mikra V'Echer Targum on every parsha, Ma'arichim Lo Yom V'Shnoisav. Kol HaMayrich B'Tfilasoi, Ma'arichim Lo Yom V'Shnoisav. According to some, if somebody is neg with tznius and he does proper modesty, is zoichel arichas yomim. These are some of this is the tip of the iceberg. What Chazal tell us that it's a clear schus, a school of arichas yomim. And of course, as I started this year, we all know what the pasuk says: by keeping your mouth shut and not talking against people, not talking lashon hara. The pasuk says, "Mia isha chavetz chayim, netzar l'shon chamera," and that will be a great schus for arichas yomim.